All right, take it away.
Okay, so I just wanted to confirm that you guys can see the screen.
Yeah,
You
I
could
can
just
see it.
confirm in the chat. Okay, great. So welcome to the workshop. I wanted to start off by having everyone introduce themselves. You can just introduce yourself in the chat. I'll start off. Um, my name is Shay, and I'm in the Faculty of Health Science, and I'm doing a health science major with the life sciences concentration, and I'm also doing a minor in business. So I also wanted to ask everyone what the best piece of advice they've ever been given, just because I feel like in workshops, a lot of people just think that they need to listen to whoever's hosting the workshop, but we can learn so much from each other. So I wanted to start off with this question. So the best advice that I've ever been given is that we are all living this life for the first time. And I feel like this is a really good reminder that it's okay to not know what you're doing. A lot of the things that we try for the first time, it is the very first time in our life. So I really like that advice. And um, if people want to introduce themselves in the chat, you could just put your name, pronouns, faculty, program, and if you want to respond, you can also share the best piece of advice you've ever been given. And if you feel uncomfortable with sending anything in the chat, or if you're too scared to have your voice on, then you could just directly message me instead of everyone in the chat. So I'll give you guys time to type if you want to. And if you also want to raise your hand to talk, you could also do that.
Hi guys, I'm sorry. This is Nercia Calino. I'm in communications faculty. I just thought I should quickly introduce myself because I'm in a cafe, but I still wanted to take a part of this. So I'm in communications faculty in a double minor, so I'm gonna venture into sociology as well. Um, One advice I learned while I was back on track last semester was that you always have to work backwards. And it didn't really click until I started thinking about this semester whilst I was on holiday and how much of it really does make sense in terms of you got to think of what the final terms are and what the final product will be, and then think of how you get there. So it's not really about the step you're taking now, but it's the steps that are already further ahead and how you're going to get there. So it's definitely thinking backwards, but moving forward. So yeah, that's one of the advice that I'm using right now, and it's really helping me think through what I need to do for this semester and the upcoming semesters as well. Thank you guys. I'm gonna mute myself now.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. I really like that advice as well. It does relate to goal setting just because it's good to kind of reverse engineer things. So if you have a big picture idea, it's always good to break it down and go backwards from there. I'm just looking in the chat. Um, Thank you, Jennifer, for being the first person. Her advice is that no one will remember this in a few months. That's so true. I think we can all get caught up in our heads, and it's good to remember that. Hi, is it Adi or Addie?
A day.
Ade. Hi,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
Um, the best advice is to listen and make and hold space for others. That's so good. I think it's good to always think about others and kind of get out of our own head and what we're working towards and think about the world as a community because we are a part of communities. Hi, Lauren. Her advice is to take yourself to take yourself seriously and remember your own value. Don't undermine yourself. I think that's really a good reminder for confidence. Thank you so much. I really like that. If you're uncomfortable to share with everyone, you can always send to me, or if you don't feel comfortable participating throughout this thing, you could just listen. And yeah, thank you for just joining us. So we'll be moving on. So this is today's agenda. We're first going to be talking about goal setting theories, just 3. I didn't want it to make it too much like a lecture. And then I wanted to talk a bit about knowing your why behind goals. And then we'll be moving on to creating your one goal for the semester. And this section, you could just grab a piece of scrap paper, or if you want to start on your bullet journal, that's fine. That's very bold of you. And then we'll move on to actually making the bullet journal spreads. You can't see my screen shared. Could I get a confirmation if that's only from Ade or?
I can see the screen. Maybe you have to change the view from standard.
Okay, yeah, you can always leave and come back. We'll let you in immediately. It might just be like the view setting that you have. Maybe you have it on speaker view and you don't have the screen pinned to the screen.
I got it. Thank you.
Okay, great. And then lastly, we'll end off with question and answers. I feel like if I go a little too fast during the whole workshop, you can ask at the end, or you could just ask during if I'm not making sense to you. And then also just like general school advice or any advice you can answer in that. And I also want you to take part in the question and answer, because I feel like we have so many people and so much knowledge that we could all just help each other out. So the 3 goal setting theories that we're going to talk about are the push and pull motivation theory, Locke's goal setting theory, and the forgetting curve. So I feel like we all are familiar with what SMART goals are, so I didn't want to cover that too much in detail. But push and pull motivation theory is something I learned very recently, and Locke's goal setting theory, I think I learned in one of my organization behavior course. And then the forgetting curve is a really good thing to know, not just for goal setting, but just life in general. So we'll get into the first theory, the push and pull motivation theory. So just as the name describes, push motivation is when you want to obtain something because there's an external factor that's pushing you towards action. So this usually feels more like hard work, and it also feels a little bit forced. And the overall example I'll be using is, let's say that your goal is to do better in school. We'll see later on that that's not the best goal to have. We should break it down, but let's just say as an easy example that you want to do better in school. So push motivation is an external factor pushing you. So that's like you wanting to have a goal of doing better in school because let's say your parents are forcing you to get good grades, or let's say the school is telling you that if you don't have good grades, then you're going to get kicked out. So that's just external factors, examples of external factors that may push you towards action. And then for pull motivation, this is to obtain something because you're naturally drawn towards it. So this is more intrinsic, and it kind of comes from like a natural motivation to do something. So using the same example to do better in school, a pull motivation might be that you feel a sense of purpose in what you're studying and that you want to go into grad school. So you're pulled to study harder or maybe learn a lot more than what's necessary because you have this other purpose in mind. Does that make sense for everyone? I'll check in the chat. Someone saying, could we get a PDF copy? Yes, you can. I'll do that in a second. I can just share this whole thing with you guys because I've uploaded it on Google Drive. So while we do that, I also wanted to mention that I know that pull motivation might seem, thank you, Jennifer. The pull motivation might seem like a better way to motivate yourself, but this is not the case. I don't want to say that one is better than the other because there are times and places for both motivation factors. So, for example, even though pull motivation might sound a lot more fun, sometimes you have to remember your necessities. So, let's say that I have this intrinsic desire to become like an influencer, for example, because I do like have a lot of social media platforms and I do make a lot of content online. So let's say I have this pull motivation to become a social media influencer. So that would be pull motivation, but maybe that's not the best idea for me because in the future, I want to go into grad school. So I do need to finish my undergraduate studies. So it doesn't make sense for me to just drop out of school and become a YouTuber, although it is a pull motivation. So sometimes it is necessary to rely on push motivation instead of pull motivation. And it's really important to identify which motivation that you're relying on. And I wanted to mention, this is a part of the 3 that I wanted to mention today, because I think we kind of tend to compare ourselves to others. I think most of us have experience doing that. And just because someone can achieve something easily, it doesn't mean that you're any less. And it's good to remind ourselves that maybe that's their pull motivation and it comes naturally to them to do the thing that you want to do. And maybe you're relying on push motivation. That's why it feels forced. Maybe so it's good to remember that it's not because you're incompetent or that the goal isn't for you. It just means that you're relying on push motivation instead of pull motivation. And then next, we are moving on to Locke's goal setting theory. If anyone has questions throughout, you could just send it in the chat, or you could just turn on your mic and interrupt me because it might be hard for me to check whose hands are up. So next, I wanted to move on to Locke's goal setting theory. So this theory tells us that there are 5 characteristics for a good goal. So the first one would be clarity, second challenge, then commitment, feedback, complexity. So let's get into the first one, clarity. So obviously your goal has to be clear, and this is where you would use SMART goals. And if you don't know what that is, you can easily Google it. But you have to know how you'll actually hit your goal. I think a lot of people make the mistake of making their goal that you want to do something more. And to do something more, it doesn't tell us exactly how much or when we want to complete it by and all those things. So SMART goals would be a good template to tell us and to make it clear. And kind of relating to that, I think a lot of us forget that we need to be tracking our goals. I think a lot of people make this mistake of making a New Year's resolution, but they don't put a system in place to be able to track their goals throughout the year, that they end up like after a few days into January, they forget their New Year's resolution, or that they just don't even want to do it anymore. So to be able to track your goals, most people usually use the direct measures. So this is something, it's like a numerical measure where you can kind of see what you've done. So this is like saying, oh, I want to read a book every month. So your direct measure would be how many pages you're reading. And I think it's also good to look at the other type of measure, which is action measures. So this is measuring your actions, which will determine how well you do for direct measures. So as an example, with the same book example, your action measure might be like, what time of the day are you reading? How, or like the quality of your reading sessions. And those will determine how much you're able to read, because if you have bad quality reading sessions where you're not really absorbing anything, then you might not read as many pages. And it's good to track both, because the action measures will tell you certain things that you might be doing wrong, and direct measures will actually tell you how close you are to reaching your goals. And then the next is challenge. We want our goals to be challenging, but not too challenging. And this is just super subjective for everyone. And you kind of have to be honest with yourself and reflect on what you've found to be challenging in the past, and then use that reflection to be able to make a goal that's challenging for you in the future. And when a goal is too challenging and we already know that we're not going to achieve it, then we might end up just quitting really early on. And then the next is commitment. So you want to be the person that's determining all the targets, not what your friends are doing, not what the people you follow on Instagram are doing, or what your parents want. Because if other people make targets for you, it'll feel like you're basically working instead of doing it for yourself. And you have to kind of care about the consequences, because if you don't care about the outcome, then what's the point of you trying to keep up with all the goals, you know? And I see in the comments, Jennifer, OMG, all of this reminds me of my psych classes. Yeah, so I really wanted to include this because this is something I learned in organization behavior, which is a class at SFU. And there's a lot of theories out there that you can apply to your own life. And I challenge you to do that in your classes, because when your classes are relevant to you, you're more naturally drawn to it. So yeah. And then the next thing is feedback. You want to be always doing check-ins either by yourself or having an accountability partner. So your check-ins can be daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you set it. I usually don't like daily check-ins, especially for direct measures, because what you do on a day-to-day basis shouldn't determine how you are in your lifetime or in a year, because we all have good days and bad days. And it kind of sucks to have a bad day and then feel like you're a loser, or that you haven't done anything, because that's not true. So weekly check-ins are really great. If you can find a friend that you're comfortable sharing your goal with that can actually ask you how you're doing, that's even better. And then the last thing is complexity. You don't want it to be complicated. And we talked about it earlier, but one of the advice is to think backwards. So complexity kind of relates to that, where you have a big goal, but you want to have little targets throughout the timeline. So today's goal we're making for a semester, which is for 4 months. Yes, 4 months. So your big timeline would be 4 months, but you want to have check-in sessions throughout those 4 months, because if you don't measure throughout the months, after the 4 months, maybe you kind of realize that you didn't do something right, or that you didn't put enough hours doing something, and then you don't complete your goal. So you want to have it super simple and easy, not easy to achieve, but easy to understand. And having the right goals, so having all of these in mind, and you create a goal that you want to commit to and is clear, and that you actually reflect on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, then you increase your motivation and you also increase productivity that way. Yes, I see in the comments complexity also in terms of how much you can put on your plate and to not overwhelm yourself. That's so true. You don't want to make a goal that's so complex in that you're doing 10 different things every single day because it's hard to keep up. So we want to be realistic, reflect on what we've done in the past, even if your goal is to do something that most people would seem or feel that it's small, it's totally okay because that's what's right for you. And pacing, that's good. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is the forgetting curve. So I won't get too technical into it, but basically information just escapes our brain, so we require reinforcement to maintain new information. So this is, I think it's something like within 7 days, most of the information that you just learned will be forgotten without you reviewing it. So we need reinforcement and repetition. So what does that mean? So in order to change our behavior, which is basically goal setting, we're doing something that we wouldn't normally do. We want to make a goal to do something that we would not normally do. And to change our behavior, we have to remember to repeat that behavior. So we have to keep doing it in order to remember to do it. And we also have to remind ourselves of our goals in order to remember what our goals are. So if you make a New Year's resolution and you never review it till, let's say, the end of the year, you're probably going to forget what your New Year's resolution was. Like, I've made resolutions even last year where if I don't remind myself, I don't even know what they are. So it's important that if we're going to put this much work into creating a goal, that we're also reminding ourselves throughout the semester what our goal is, and also to keep up with our behavior so we know what we're supposed to do. So those were the three theories that I wanted to talk about today, and we'll get on to actually doing these things or putting it into action. Just before that, just kidding, I wanted to talk about knowing your why. So here I said a goal should make you grow, it should align with who you are, and it should be uncomfortable. So we said earlier that your goal is something that you don't regularly do. You're pushing yourself to do something else that's challenging. And just because you pick a challenging goal, it doesn't mean that it's a good goal. I could say that I am going to go take cold showers every single morning because I feel like a lot of YouTubers say that. But what kind of goal is that where I don't actually care to take a cold shower? I'm sure, like, I don't know, like it could be good for your hair or skin. But if I don't care about the reason behind it, there's no way that I'm going to get into a cold shower every single day. Yeah, I love hot showers too. So your goal should align with who you are and it should make you uncomfortable. One or the other would not be good. Both has to be there for you to be able to grow. So without knowing your why, you're less motivated to achieve your goals. So we said earlier with commitment that you want to pick goals that you set and that you care about the consequences. And if you don't actually care about doing the actions every single day and you don't care about the end result of your goal, then you have no reason to do it. So you have no reason to continue. So that was it. And then now we're going to actually work on writing our goals. So you could take out a piece of scrap paper and then kind of brainstorm, because I don't think you'll get it right the very first time. And if you don't want to ruin your bullet journal, then you could just work on a scrap piece of paper first, and then we can do the filling out the bullet journal section. So the first thing is to have one big goal for the semester. And I don't want to make it like an academic goal or anything. It has to be right for who you are. So for example, if you're in a faculty and you're not going into grad school where your GPA matters, you're just getting a job and they're not really going to care about what your GPA is, then maybe your goal should be something like, how can I improve my skills through extracurricular activities, you know? And then if, on the other hand, if you do care about what your GPA is like this semester, then you could have an academic goal in mind. So the one big goal for the semester should be something that's fully in your control. So we can start with a goal that's not really fully in our control, like saying that I want an A plus in one of my classes. So when we think about it, getting an A plus in class is not something that's not in our control. It's pretty much out of our control because if your faculty grades on a curve, then what you get in the end might be dependent on how your classmates do. So if we kind of want our goal to be that we get an A plus in class, then we want to break it down so it's actually in our control. So for me, I need to think about something that's fully in my control that would most likely result in an A plus in the class. So let's say if I were to start each big project or exam, start preparing for it 4 weeks in advance, then maybe we'll have more time to get feedback from the professors or more time for me to study. And starting to prep or study 4 weeks in advance, that's an action that's completely in my control. Maybe not completely, but mostly in my control to do that. So you want your big goal for this semester to be something that's mostly in your control. So I will give you some time to kind of brainstorm, even if you just come up with a goal that's not fully in your control, to just think of another action that will most likely get you to the end goal where it's not in your control. So if you have any questions, feel free to send it in the chat, but I will mute myself for now, and then you can write down your one big goal for the semester. Okay, so I'm going to be moving on to the next thing. If you're not done yet, you could just keep working. If you are done, you could listen to the next step, which is to make 3 monthly milestones. So I'm just going to keep the same example of me wanting an A plus in one of my classes. And in order to do that, I have to start 4 months in advance. So if I want to make 3 monthly milestones, let's say that I have 3 major assignments and exams in my classes. So that could be 1, having a paper, 2 having a midterm, and 3 having a final. So those could be my 3 monthly milestones where I can actually see that's not the total goal, but actually break down those goals into smaller pieces. So I'll give you some time to think about 3 monthly milestones that you can do. So I see someone's one big goal, get used to waking up in the morning. So that's a pretty useful goal. I've been having to do that. I think like a week before my classes, I was trying to fix my sleep schedule because I was literally waking up at or going to bed around 3 a.m. and I didn't feel tired at all. So think about what your 3 monthly milestones are. So let's say that we use the waking up in the morning. The 3 monthly milestones can be that at the end of January, that your sleep schedule is, for example, sleeping at 12 and then waking up at 8. And then at the end of February, it's actually 11 to 7. It might be crazy, but by the end of March, it could just be that your sleep schedule is at 10 to 6, which sounds so crazy to me, but it could be that way. I actually really like that goal to separate work and life. Last year, I focused a lot on creating balance in my life because I felt like school was taking up too much time where I was basically sacrificing everything for school. And yeah, I think that's really good to do something for yourself every day. Face mask, paint nails, read. Yeah, anything you can do for yourself every day is really good. At the end of the day, like you're basically the only person you're going to live with for the rest of your life. So it's pretty good to take care of your physical and mental health that way. Okay, and then I'm going to move on. So you want to have 4 deliverables for each week within that month. So you can kind of see that we're breaking down the big thing into 3 little things, and then each 3 little thing we're breaking into 4 things. So in my example, I said that my 3 milestones are the paper, midterm, and final. So for the paper, my 4 weekly deliverables can be that the first deliverable is that I just start researching just to see what topic I even want to talk about. And then my second one could be that I'm still researching, but I want to draft a thesis and kind of talk about it with a TA. And then my third deliverable for that week or for that month can be that I complete my first draft. And then the fourth one is that I edit my first draft and have a final copy ready. So if you were to just say that you want to work on your paper 4 weeks in advance, that is better than having no goal, but it might get confusing because you don't know what you're supposed to do each week. And then at the end of the month, if you don't know what you were supposed to do each week, you might have not even gotten the paper started 4 weeks ago. So if you have a goal in mind, you want to break it up into little chunks. So if you don't want to do 4 deliverables, you can do 3, you can do 1. Just having a specific action that you can take is really good. For example, if you're trying to wake up in the morning, your one deliverable for that 1 week can be that you stop looking at screens 1 hour before you sleep. And then you could try doing that for 2 weeks and then try something else like dimming the lights at night or just using a lamp instead of the overhead light. things like that, where you can actually take action and you know exactly what to do. So you can walk out of this workshop feeling like you know exactly what you're going to do. And yeah, for like making sure to do something for yourself every day, it could just be that each week you're doing something different. Like one week, you're going to make sure that you're taking care of your skin. Next week, you want to make sure that you go on walks and stuff like that. And then I'm going to move on to the last thing, which is daily system and tasks. So this would be really super specific to what your goal is, but you want to have some kind of system. So a system is just a bunch of little things that you do that all add up together and becomes a system for you to do every day. So your system can be like a method of tracking what you're doing, or a method of making sure that you make time to do something. So with um, my starting 4 weeks early goal is that maybe I want to measure all my study sessions, how well they went or how long they were. So that's one thing that I could do every day at the end of the day, to be like, when I was doing my paper, how productive was I on a scale of 1 to 10? And then you could also do that if you don't want to do it daily, you can do it weekly, where at the end of the week, you can kind of assess. It doesn't have to be like numerical, it could just be very like you writing in your journal how your week went in terms of your goals. And then another system could be like me, at the end of the day for tomorrow, I actually block out time to do the thing that I need to do. So I block out time to start doing my research paper. And that way you actually make sure that the next day when you wake up, you know what you're doing, and you also have the time to be what you're doing, or you have the time to achieve what you said you were going to do. So that is it for daily systems and tasks. And then we can move on to actually doing the spread. So if you follow the system, I'm going to stop screen sharing this, and I'm going to share my screen here. So you can actually, if you started on your bullet journal, that's like really bold of you. But if you haven't started on your bullet journal, here is a sample of what your bullet journal can look like for your goals. So here you can see that I have a section for each thing that we just talked about, and we have our goal or our title here. And I understand that everyone has like a different bullet journal theme. So if you want to just stick with your theme, that's totally fine. Thank you. Thank you. So you can start off with writing your heading. However you write your heading, you could just do that. And then after you write your heading, you want to split the page into 4. So if you have dotted paper, you could just divide the paper up into 4. So this side divide into 4. And then you could fill out these boxes. So your big goal, your why, the 3 milestones that you set, and then having the weekly deliverables. And then if you have any questions, we could just also kind of start the Q&A session now, so we have a lot more time to ask each other questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
What if you have more than one big goal? Like, what if I need multiple pages of this?
You can either just like make the same spread and just copy it for each goal, or you could just, for example, split everything into half and then writing it down. that way. Thank you for joining. Bye. For me, I have like this semester, I'm not really using a, what's it called? A bullet journal, but I have like my planner here where I made a lot of goals for myself this semester because it's something that I've been doing during the winter break. So I'm confident that I can juggle all of this. But basically, I split areas of my goals into 3, and then I wrote down goals for it that way. So if you don't have one big goal, but have like 2 or 3 different areas of your life that you want to work on, so for example, your work life, your school life, your personal life, something like that, then you could just split it and you don't have to follow this exact spread if it doesn't work.
So would you recommend splitting it up into like categories like financial goals and then like school related and then like physical health?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it makes sense to do it that way too, to just look at categories of your life, because I think that's how we think about goals in our head anyways, to just organize things. For those of you that are here, how is your first week of school going? All my classes start at 8:30 this semester, so I've been waking up at 7 and it feels really unnatural still. Thank you, thank you. How's your semester going? Drowning in readings. Good luck to you this semester. I think readings are like my least favorite part of school. I'm lucky to be in science where we don't have as much readings, but I am in a seminar, so I might have to do a lot of readings for that too. You accidentally listen to lectures up to week 3 because, oh my goodness. I remember you mentioning before that you actually pair up watching lectures to doing something else. I think that's really good. Well, at least you're like 3 weeks ahead. That's pretty good. Like,
Well, I'm only ahead because I know I have a lot of stuff to do that's outside of school. Like I just spend 25% of my time in school, like doing school related stuff. The rest is like extracurriculars. So I have to
oh,
be ahead and plan early.
oh my goodness. Well, that's pretty good to like at least know what your schedule is going to be like. I know like I remember in first year I didn't really plan out my time and I ended up having, I think I had like 3 exams really close to each other, or it was like back to back. Each day I had an exam and I did not time it right and I just stressed out myself that way. But I think it's good what you're doing with getting ahead. Okay, so you could just take a screenshot if you want to keep this template, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about having a spread where you're actually tracking things. So earlier I said that you have to track direct measures and action measures, and this is an example of how you can easily track how you're doing with your goals. So I just called it a weekly dashboard, but for every single week of the month, I have like a column for it. So here, here, and here, and here. And then for rows, I have the days of the week. So I had a goal to, if I had a goal to finish my research during day 1, I could either check off that I worked on it, or I could actually write down that I looked for topic ideas. And then this is a way for you to see overall how you're doing with your goals and how much effort you're putting into each week. And then you could also have like places where each week you're writing down that you need to check out a specific website, or that you want to ask TA about something. Then you could just have like a weekly deliverable. If you have more than one deliverable each week, you could just write it down. And then you also have space to reflect after each week. I think it's really important to have some kind of system where you can reflect. If you're doing just weekly check-ins with yourself, you could do it this way, or if you have an accountability partner, you can just discuss what you did that week and then talk about how your week went. So this is something that like I do with my boyfriend at the end of every day. We kind of ask each other because we kind of know what we're working on. So we kind of ask each other what we're doing and how we did that day. And that's a good way to keep yourself accountable. Thank you so much for joining. To answer Jennifer's question, do I prefer digital or physical journals? I really like physical. It feels really good to write on paper, and I don't know, like I've always just been a paper person. I take my notes on my tablet, but with planning, I just really hate it. When I started bullet journaling, I had to just be okay with mistakes, and like little mistakes, I just forget about it after a while. But you can always just write in pencil and then write over it in pen. That's what I did when I first started bullet journaling, and then that ended up taking way too much time that it wasn't worth it. How do you balance daily systems simultaneously for multiple goals? That's a good question. Here, I'll show you guys what my weekly dashboard looks like. So I have a few things that I'm working on simultaneously. This is what like my weekly dashboard looks like. And basically, it's basically the same setup, but I have multiple columns. So each week I have this piece of paper where I have my water count, sleep, and gym. And then for my water count, I know that looks low, but like I'm drinking out of a water bottle. Yes, drink water. I was so dehydrated before. I don't know how I lived. And then, for example, I have some where I track with numbers and then some where I track with words with check marks. So I have two separate ones, one to track just health habits, and then one to track morning routine habits. And then I have other things that I'm also tracking. So you could just make a bunch of tables. Honestly, this is just made in Word, and then I downloaded a special font to my computer. But if you know how to use Excel, that's another way to track it. I know that with bullet journals, it might get a little tedious to just keep making spreads every week. So it's a good way to just do it digitally. And then if you have a printer, you can easily print it out every week to keep track of all those goals. Did that answer your question? Oh yeah, I do have a lot of printables on my blog. And then also in the starter message, I also made a Google Doc where it basically has this this template, so you don't have to keep writing it down. And then you can easily make a table like this on Google Docs and then print it out. If you're okay with just not copying, but printing and then pasting it on your bullet journal. Do you guys have a theme for your bullet journal this year or this month? I'm curious. That's funny. I know some people do bullet journaling to make it super aesthetic, and some people just do it as a way to just plan and have it all in there. So it's always interesting, like seeing other people's bullet journals. Yeah, honestly, if just do what works for you. I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm literally not that old, but as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that I need to be okay with just doing things my way. And like, it's good to like see different perspectives, but at the end of the day, like you just have to do things that just work with you. So on my planner, I have a star theme, and I really liked it because it's very quick to draw stars. I'll show you guys, but I thought it would be really cute to have a quote that says shoot for the stars. And then I just have a bunch of stars up here. And this is like the easiest spread that I've ever done. I think it took me 30 minutes to basically plan out my whole semester because I didn't pick such a complicated theme. I've done bullet journaling in the past where, no, I'm not, I'm Aquarius. Do I have Virgo tendencies? I've done, I've done like themes where it's like cute, but this just like takes forever to do. And I realized that I don't have that kind of time. So I really appreciate people's bullet journals when it looks super cute. Thank you. Yeah, but it's just time consuming. But I'm really glad because it took me a while to get into bullet journaling. I feel like I always try to get into it, and then my perfectionism just like blocked me from doing it. But after doing a few months of it, I realized how much I really like having a super custom thing. But I didn't have time this semester, so I ended up just making a whole planner digitally. Do you ever rip pages out? Not because of a mistake, but I rip out pages because I'm like doing random stuff with it. But no, I've never ripped it out because of a mistake. What if you need to reorder the journal and rearrange the pages? I don't know. If you rip out the pages, wouldn't it just be loose? I don't really know how to bookbind. I know that you know how to bookbind, but yeah, honestly, you could just use a binder. Like my system this semester is like a planner sized binder, and I just made these inserts myself, and then I have inserts for the whole semester. Oh, it's on my Etsy. You can also get to it through my blog. So yeah, does anyone else have any questions? I know I've been talking a lot. Did I print out the pages using a home printer? No, I didn't. I went to Staples to get it printed because I wanted like, I'm not sure if you guys get super technical with paper, but like I wanted a 160 GSM paper, which is like very thick paper because I like using highlighters and stuff and I didn't want it to bleed through. So I got it printed at Staples, and this is their 65-pound paper, which is basically like cardstock. I don't know if you can tell. It's hard to show texture on camera, but I love it so much. That's why this planner is so thick, and this is just for one semester. But I think this is a really good way because you can easily customize it. Yeah, like printing out dotted paper, you can like easily DIY a bullet journal because bullet journals can get expensive. And also, if you just want good quality paper and you don't want to pay like $50 for a good bullet journal, you can easily print it out on, you could just buy thick paper and then print it out. And then as long as you use black and white, then it's pretty like cost saving.
I'm just noticing we have like 2 minutes left of this workshop, but it was super informative. I learned a lot. I just want to like quickly plug our Instagram for SFSS events, and Shay, you can like drop your Instagram link as well if you want. But if you like the workshop, feel free to just DM us on Instagram, let us know your feedback, or just put it in the Zoom chat. And we'll be hosting a lot of workshops throughout the semester, so be sure to check out the SFSS events Instagram there, and you can turn on post notifications and all that. We're doing like, hopefully we're doing Brooklyn Nine-Nine trivia next, but we'll see how that goes. And also this recording will be emailed to everybody who signed up for the workshop. So if you signed up through Eventbrite, they'll send an email to you with the recording and the YouTube link and everything once it's up. And I'll try to get it up by the end of this week, but if not, then next week. And it will be emailed to everybody. All right, any last closing remarks, Shay?
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining. I know first week can be really busy with like learning a bunch of things and doing a bunch of readings. So I wanted to thank you all for joining us today. And if you want to find me on social media, you could just search for my name. I also have a YouTube channel where I do monthly plan with me videos. So I have my January plan with me video. So if you are going to take some time to work on your bullet journal, you can just turn that on and go plan with me. Jennifer put my Instagram there too, and I answer all DMs. So if you have any questions after this, then just DM me. And I hope I see you all on campus when we go back to campus.
Yeah, I will put all of these links, like Shay's website, Instagram, and YouTube, in the description of the video recording for this. So if you don't want to, if you missed saving all of them, you can just check the video, check your email for the video link, and it'll be in the description. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.